The voice and its training involves breath work, articulation, projection, and dialect work. With breath work, this is about learning to breathe properly, to breathe deeply, to breathe from way down under your belly button, and to release your voice on the breath. Talk about speaking on your voice, and that means simply breathing deeply and allowing the voice to come out on the breath. And believe it or not, this is something we actually have to be trained to do. Most people don't do this. They breathe very shallowly, and they often speak without having enough breath to really support their voices. So you might end up with a sound that's a lot thinner and a lot less supported and simply doesn't have the roundness and the fullness that you would have if you were properly supporting your breath. And if you heard what I just did there, I'm changing from deliberately trying to take big, deep, supported breaths to just letting the air run out and not really supporting my voice. So maybe you can hear the difference there a little bit. Articulation is about whether or not you can be understood on stage. Enunciation. Are you pronouncing all the sounds of words? Are you pronouncing the ends of words? Often in daily life we don't. We sort of just kind of mumble and we leave off the end words and we don't open our mouths very wide. But if you're speaking to a big group of people, that doesn't work very well. Things start to get mushy. And if you think about something like Oedipus, where you've got a chorus speaking together, whenever you've got people singing or speaking together, it very quickly can get very mushy. So you need that clear, sharp articulation to carry the sound out to the audience and to your scene partners. Projection is about whether or not you can be heard as an actor. If the actors aren't projecting, then the audience can't hear them. And that takes training and voice classes to learn that projection. A lot of young actors in particular, it takes years to train them to really properly project. I like to say I didn't really learn to breathe and to project until probably halfway through grad school. Halfway through my 3-year Master of Fine Arts in Acting program, I think I finalized how to breathe, and it was quite the revelation. And once you know how to breathe and to support your voice, and you can do that on a regular basis, it feels really good, and so you tend to keep wanting to do that. Actors also work on dialects, of course. We start with Standard American dialect, which is a dialect that was invented by NBC News in the 1950s when news anchors became national news anchors. So you'd have a national news show like we have today, but you would have anchors from all over the place, and they'd all have different dialects, and so this became very distracting to a national audience. And NBC, the network, decided that they would actually form a type of what they called a Standard American dialect. Now, Standard American dialect doesn't actually exist, but we train actors in it so that, in essence, they lose their regionalisms. They lose their regional dialect. If someone's from the South, from Kentucky, which is actually where I'm from, then we don't want those people to sound like they are from Kentucky when they are on stage and they're supposed to be in Thebes. You can't have somebody who's from Kentucky and somebody who moved from Wisconsin and is going to sound, or from Michigan where they're going to say bag instead of bag, right? So you need to have a way to standardize and formalize so that everybody sounds like they're in the same world, the same universe. So we start by, in the same way we try to lose our physical tensions, we try to lose our regionalisms. So we work with Standard American dialect. Then you start to learn other dialects. You might learn French, German, various British dialects, all of those things. This is a tongue twister, and it is for articulation. It's one of the ways that actors learn to articulate and to rid themselves of some of the tension. Believe it or not, you have tension in your face, tension in your tongue, tension in your jaw, tension in your lips, and all of that interferes with your articulation and enunciation. So this particular tongue twister, which you can do along with me at home if you'd like, is what a to-do to die today at a minute or two till two. And then you clap. A thing distinctly hard to say, but harder still to do. For they'll beat a tattoo at 20 till 2, a rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat, and the dragoon will come to the beat of a drum at a minute or two till 2 today at a minute or two till 2. So the reason for the claps is that we're simply building energy there. So actors do a lot of warming up so that you can build your energy, you can get relaxed, you can warm up your articulators, your lips, your teeth, the tip of your tongue, your jaw, the inside of your mouth, the soft palate even. And I'll explain what a soft palate is here in a second. But all those things are articulators. Now, only some of them can you really warm up. You can't really warm up your teeth, right? You can relax your jaw, but I don't know if you can really warm it up. But your lips, your tongue, and your soft palate, you actually can warm up. So while home there, listening to this, go ahead and take your tongue and roll it back in your mouth. Try to touch the back part of the roof of your mouth, and you might be able to feel there that it's soft back there. You have a hard palate and a soft palate, and actually both your hard and soft palate are articulators. The hard palate, however, doesn't move, so we don't really warm it up, or the teeth. But you can warm up and relax your soft palate by yawning open your mouth. So if you do a big yawn, you can feel your soft palate move up, and that will relax it. So we do a lot of yawning. We also will do articulation exercises like tongue twisters, and those are really good to warm up your tongue, as a matter of fact. So again, you can do this with me a little faster. What a to-do to die today at a minute or till 2. A thing distinctly hard to say, but harder still to do. For they'll beat a tattoo at 20 till 2, a rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat, and the dragoon will come to the beat of a drum at a minute or two till 2 today, at a minute or two till 2. So a couple more tongue twisters, again, for articulation. Topeka bodega. You can say that really fast. Topeka bodega, Topeka bodega, Topeka bodega. Red leather, yellow leather, good blood, bad blood. And make sure you get those D's on the end there. Unique, New York. Betty Botter bought a bit of bitter butter. A bit of bitter butter Betty Botter bought. And of course, there are lots more tongue twisters that you can do. They go on for days, really. Imagination is maybe one of the biggest tools that actors are working on. It's really the ability to portray characters unlike yourself and to find yourself in those characters. It involves timing and playfulness and discipline. You've got to be willing to play, and that becomes harder and harder to do as we get older and the play gets kind of beaten out of us, socialized out of us. But you've got to remember what it was like to play and to pretend. However, you've also got to have a lot of discipline. You've got to memorize lines, you've got to show up to rehearsal on time, you've got to go for auditions, and you've got to pay to get new headshots, and you've got to knock on a lot of people's doors and say, hey, would you hire me? And you've got to seem like you're confident without being arrogant. And of course, actors have egos, so sometimes they are arrogant. And sometimes they're full of self-doubts because they're getting rejected a lot. And by some estimates, you can audition about 100 times for every role that you actually get. So that's 99 times you're being told no, and in some respects that you're, feeling like you're not good enough because someone rejected you. And no matter how nice they are about it, it feels like a rejection. Technique versus talent. This is an interesting idea because technique you can train people to have technique. Technique involves a lot of the things that I was just talking about: articulation and acting style, and do you know declamatory acting from realistic acting? Can you project your voice? Can you become a different character? Can you move in certain ways to convince us that you are a person from the 1800s and not someone from 2012? So all of those things involve technique. Talent is much more difficult to define. And often people just say, that person's got it. And often it involves a combination of charm. We want to watch that person. They're probably funny. They're probably bright, even though actors have an undeserved, in my opinion, reputation for being stupid. They're not stupid. If they're stupid, they're usually bad actors. And certainly we have bad actors. That's always been the case, and I'm sure it always will be, just like in any profession. But most actors that are worth their salt are really quite bright, in my experience. Dumb actors, they're out there, and usually they get far because maybe they're a pretty face, and maybe they know somebody. And just like any profession, if you've got the connections and you're pretty, you're probably going to go a little ways at least. But the ones that really rise to the top and that are really respected have that extra something. They have the technique, they have the discipline, but they also have that undefinable kind of quality called talent.